Hi, everyone. Good afternoon if you're in the East, and good morning if you are out West. Welcome to the Climate Program Office FY25 NOFO, specifically for the TEPEX Central and East Coast. My name is Jose Algarin. I am the Program Specialist for the Climate Variability and Predictability Program at NOAA's Climate Program Office, which is the program that is sponsoring this Notice of Funding Opportunity. And I'm joined by others at NOAA, so please introduce yourselves.
Go ahead and start. I'm Ginny Sills. I'm the Climate Variability and Predictability Program Manager at NOAA. So both Jose and I will be talking about the competition information sheets, the TEPEX-C and TEPEX-E sheets, and an introduction to the facility requests. And so we're going to try to save the majority of the time for question and answer from you all. Eugene? Oh, you're on mute, I think. Eugene, we can't hear you. All right, let's go to Chidong.
Yeah, this is Chidong Zhang from PML, and I have been involved with the development of the TEPEX science plan.
All right, Eugene, we still can't hear you. Let me try and see. You're muted. I'm trying to unmute you on my side. It says you're self-muted. There's a mic button on the top.
Okay, I'll introduce Eugene. So Eugene is from PML2, and he's the data guru in our lab, and he will be in charge of data collection, data management, and the dissemination for TEPEX field observations.
All right, and she's not, I don't see her here, but Elizabeth Thompson, she's also at NOAA's Physical Science Lab, and she's also been involved with the TEPEX effort. And she'll be here soon to answer questions. All right, so this webinar will cover specifically about the TEPEX competition itself. The CPO ESSM division will have a NOFO informational webinar. This is for all programs, and we'll be sharing brief information on each competition besides TEPEX, and discuss more in depth the application process and timelines, as well as NOAA's new online grant system, ERA. That system started this year, and so we hope to answer plenty of questions that the audience may have next Friday, September 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern. There's a QR code on your screen. You can scan that code, and it will prompt you to the registration. We'll use the same platforms we're using right now, GoToWebinar. So feel free to attend that, and you'll hear more about the admin stuff. If you even want to put it that way, more admin stuff about the ERA and others, the other competitions at CPO ESSM division. Next slide. And again, this is for NOAA. So basically, we're trying to build a climate-ready nation. And NOAA's mission of science, service, and stewardship are the three pillars supporting the agency's leadership in understanding and predicting changes in climate, weather, oceans, and coasts, and getting actionable environmental information in the hands of decision makers. Basically, we are NOAA. We're leading this project, and we want everybody to know that as well. So I'm gonna toss it up to Jeannie, who's gonna talk more about the TEPEX itself. You're muted, Jeannie. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No.
All right. It's like we've never done this before. We have. So I'll talk a little bit about the organizational background and evolution of TEPEX. And as Jose just mentioned, the goal of TEPEX is to advance NOAA's mission. And so this field campaign is to advance NOAA's observing and modeling systems. And so a number line offices are involved in TEPEX and will benefit from TEPEX. So we, the Climate Program Office, sits in the Oceanic and Atmospheric Research Line Office, as does the laboratories that are involved that you'll hear from and can ask questions from today. Other line offices that are relevant to and can benefit from this field campaign include the National Weather Service, NESDIS, and importantly, the Office of Marine and Aviation Operations. Okay, so within the Climate Program Office, again, I manage the Climate Variability and Predictability Program. That program is sponsoring or funding this effort. And the program largely supports research that enhances our process level understanding of the climate system through observation, modeling, analysis, and field studies. And again, this knowledge is critical for NOAA's seasonal to decadal and beyond modeling and observing systems. Other programs in OAR are also involved or could benefit from this field campaign. This includes the Global Ocean Monitoring and Observing Program, which maintains or supports maintenance of the TPOS array, as well as other program offices that support observing and modeling in this realm. So the TEPEX science plan emerged from discussions across the science community. So this started with the scoping of TPOS 2020, which is the TPOS 2020 report, which was a 5 to 6 year effort. Two pre-field campaign modeling efforts funded by CBP furthered recommendations of that TPOS 2020 report. And those projects, along with multiple air-sea interaction workshops that have been held by US CLIBAR, have culminated into this TEPEX science plan. And so you can access the TEPEX science plan from the Climate Variability and Predictability website. We've added a QR code here that will take you to the TEPEX science plan. So the TEPEX science plan lays out two different field campaigns. And I want to emphasize that the TEPEX science plan is encompassing of both the field campaign stage of this effort, as well as the later modeling stage of this effort. So the TEPEX science plan is going to be almost a decade-long effort, and we're right now focused on the implementation of the field campaign programs. So the science plan lays out two different field campaigns, one focused in the central region on the zonal migration of the Western Pacific warm pool, and one focused in the eastern region on cold tongue variability and coupling between the ocean and the atmosphere. So we have two notice of funding opportunities. There's one competition per notice of funding opportunity. That is a change from previous years when we had one overarching notice of funding opportunity and let's say 10 competitions within that notice of funding opportunity. So please do pay attention to which notice of funding opportunity you are applying to. It will probably be difficult, if not impossible, to move your proposals around once you submit them. So again, please submit your proposal to the correct notice of funding opportunity. So these two competitions, again, the goal is to yield a unique coupled boundary layer data set, even in both cruises, that will enable future advancements for NOAA's subseasonal to decadal modeling and observing systems. And while we are focused on the field component, I really want to emphasize and encourage you to think about how that data set, how you're proposing to collect that data, how that data set will then feed into in future years, improving the way that NOAA either observes, monitors, or models this region. So we've emphasized in both competitions, consider your proposed work in the context of the air-sea transition zone. These proposals, again, should be motivated by their downstream impacts on NOAA's monitoring or modeling systems. and proposals should focus on the field component of TEPEX. And so I highlight the field component here because this is our chance to go out into the field, take these measurements, and get this data. And so the proposals should be largely focused on that. At the same time, we're really pushing continued collaboration and coordination with the modeling community. And so these proposals can have modeling components, but that modeling component should be very focused on furthering the goals of the field campaign, or continuing that collaboration with the modeling community. We will have future competitions in future years that are more analysis, modeling, and translation focused. Again, this is our time to go out into the field and collect measurements. And that's kind of what the bottom part of this slide includes. The midterm goal for future year opportunities is to focus on those modeling needs that are laid out in the science plan. All right, so again, we have 2 competitions. Each competition has its own notice of funding opportunity. You can read more about each competition in the competition information sheet. The competition information sheet is separate from the notice of funding opportunity. So again, I really want to emphasize, if you just go to the notice of funding opportunity, you're going to miss a lot of valuable information that's in a separate document called the information sheet. I've copied kind of a picture of the information sheet on the slide, so that is what you should see if you want to apply to this opportunity. So again, the central worm pool competition focuses on advancing understanding of the coupling of the troposphere, ocean mixed and barrier layers, and the processes that regulate zonal temperature gradients and generate and sustain surface jets that expand and contract the worm pool. The NOAA facilities requested here include the Ron Brown for spring of 2026 and the P3 for spring of 2026. So we have submitted the request for those facilities. We will find out if they are available, hopefully sometime in the winter or spring prior to awards being made. And so you will know whether you have access to either of these when we award your proposal. The second competition is the TEPEX East, focused on the cold tongue region. So the focus of this notice of funding opportunity is understanding and constraining how the coupled cold tongue system regulates momentum, heat, and moisture across the Pacific and vertically. The facilities requested through NOAA for this include the Ron Brown fall of 2026 and a global class ship that's yet to be determined. It could be the Ron Brown, it could be a newer ship that NOAA is testing, and that's potentially going to happen in spring of 2027. Again, we should know about the Ron Brown fall of 2026 by the time your proposals are awarded. I'm unsure about the timing for the spring 2027 cruise. And then I just wanted to touch on the review and selection process. We'll also go over this in the September 6th webinar. LOIs are encouraged, but not required. LOIs are reviewed by the program or other NOAA personnel only for relevance. The LOIs do not go through a scientific and technical merit review. Again, these LOIs are not required, but they are highly encouraged. This helps us understand how many proposals we're going to receive, what reviewers we should include, and it also gives you a good sense of whether or not your LOI is relevant before you submit it to the program. Proposal review and selection has 2 stages. One is the scientific review. This is 75% of your score. It includes merit, qualifications, and budget. The second stage is a second panel that again focuses on relevance. And so I really encourage you to submit an LOI because relevance is a factor that your proposal is reviewed on. And then in addition to the stage 1 and stage 2 review, there are also selection-based factors that the program can consider, and these are published in the NOFO. Each competition is reviewed by a separate panel, and panels do not provide consensus reviews. All right, and so with that, I'll pass it to Eugene, and then we can move into our question and answer. How are you doing, Eugene?
I'm trying to unmute Eugene. Okay, there you go. Okay, hold on.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
okay.
Can you hear me, Jose? Okay,
Yes,
good.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Hello, everyone. So just a few slides on the data management aspect of this field campaign. Obviously, data is the objective, data used in the research is the objective of this campaign. So the data management objective is to underpin the success of TEPEX by providing a robust data management support. And the objective of the data management is to ensure easy access to well-documented data for your research efforts, and we will ensure these data are preserved for perpetual use. So there is a core data management support team that will be established. I'm part of this, and I have some colleagues that have joined us here at PML, and we'll see this team is being defined at the moment. And we are also developing a data policy for TEPEX, and the policy will include guidelines on data formats, data delivery pathways, and the data delivery is to ensure access to at minimum TEPEX participants, but then also future access to the data. And it will also set metadata expectations and expectations for data documentation. Next slide. So a couple of slides just on the data guidelines here. Firstly, as you think about your participation in this, as far as data delivery and file formats are concerned, we would expect the data policy would define data delivery in commonly used scientific data formats that's used by the community. And please, no proprietary data formats. Those are data formats that require commercial clients or clients that you need to purchase to read the files. And of course, all data should be delivered in file formats that are machine readable, such as CSV or NetCDF, which are commonly used, but it's not only those formats. We will expect complete metadata, including sensor information. There will be guidance in the documentation that we will provide, and there will also be specific TEPEX elements to identify these data as related to this field campaign that we would define in the data policy. Data will be hosted at a facility. All data related to this field campaign will be hosted in a facility that will provide both graphical user interface and machine-to-machine interfaces, so you could script or write software against these data sources or data hosting environments. And data will be available immediately to TEPEX participants as soon as data are submitted. Data will be made available to TEPEX participants, and we'll work with the Climate Program Office on guidelines for any embargoes that exist with these data. Just one note here, that data within the federal government public access to research results have to be made available with a persistent identifier as soon as you have a publication on these data, and we will certainly follow those guidelines. Next slide, please. So with workflows are what I refer to are the pathways to get your data into a repository and into the hands or into a pathway where it will the data lifecycle will continue. So we acknowledge that a lot of the data or platforms that will be used in this campaign have existing pathways. I'm thinking of drifters, for instance, some drifters at least, and also floats. So where possible, we will leverage those existing data workflows and maybe see about some metadata annotation to highlight that these data are funded by this opportunity, or the platform and the data derived from the platform are funded by this opportunity. But we acknowledge that there are some data where existing workflows don't exist, and let's say observations from a ship, and where those data are come off the ship. And we will intend to provide a data submission platform where data can be submitted to PML, and then these data will be made available to TEPEX participants. Where it's relevant, some of the data will be disseminated in near real time onto the World Meteorological Organization Global Telecommunications Service, and this will depend on the parameter and the timeliness of how soon we get these data. Typically, we would expect these data to be delivered within hours after measurement, and on the GTS, data older than 24 hours are not, the usefulness of those data drop off. So we will determine this as we get more clarity on what will be measured. Data will be archived with NCI, NOAA Centers for Environmental Information, and NCI will also mint persistent identifiers, DOIs, on the data. And then just a note here on model output, the data management of model outputs, this will be handled separately. Okay, thank you, Jose and Jenny. That's what I have.
All right, so that takes us to the end of our presentation, and Elizabeth joined us. And so Elizabeth, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Elizabeth Thompson. I am a research meteorologist at the NOAA Physical Sciences Lab in Boulder, Colorado. I'm one of the leads for the TEPEX planning part. We helped produce the science plan, and I've also requested the ships through the NOAA system. So I'm a point person for that.
Great, thank you. So this is our time for questions. We have about 35 minutes, 35 minutes. And so feel free to ask your questions.
Yep. And there's two ways you can ask your question. There's a questions box. You can type the questions and we can read it, or I can read it out loud for our panelists, or you can raise your hand and directly speak your question. So we encourage everyone to ask questions if you have questions.
And while people are thinking about what they want to ask, I'll kind of re-emphasize for those who joined late. If you're familiar with campaigns that CPP has held in the past, we're making an effort this time to focus on having a core kind of services, core focus on data management. And so that's what Eugene Berger presented. Him and his team will be leading up the data management piece and providing some support in what he laid out.
Jenny, I guess I've heard some questions from the community about what to do if they have an idea that they think is relevant for both competitions.
So let's see. So in the competition information sheet, we do have a rule that says that you can only submit one proposal as the lead PI to either TEPEX-E or TEPEX-C. And so if you have a proposal that you think would work for both, there are a number of things you can do. You can work with a partner and write two proposals, one to each competition, and not be the lead PI on one. You can frame it.
Sorry, I think I lost you there. Can't hear you.
I think Jenny froze, but I would say that in the LOI submission form, the Google form, there's one of the questions is which CBP FY25 competition are you applying to with this LOI? And there's three.
And how it will.
You came back.
Oh, did I freeze?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like right when you said you can also reframe it. I feel like we lost your second thought completely.
You can also frame it so that it's kind of really sitting in one of the two cruises, and then, or one of the two field campaigns, and then also provides this benefit to the other campaign. So it really depends how much effort you're thinking for both field campaigns. I would reach out to me and just talk through your idea, and I can provide, I think, a more specific recommendation. But I think there are some ways that you could propose an idea that's relevant for both.
And I was adding that in the LOI submission form, there's a question that says, which CVP FY25 competition are you applying to with this LOI? And there's 3 choices: TEPEX East, TEPEX Central, and then my LOI is relevant to both, and I'm not sure how to answer this question. So if you're this person, then you can definitely check that box, and then Jeannie and I will give further guidance. I see 4 questions in the questions box. I'm going to start with the first one, and says the NOFO states, and I think this is for, well, I'm just going to read it. The NOFO states that proposals that include modeling work should be focused on providing direct guidance to the observational field campaign component, or enabling observation model integration to benefit the field campaign. Does this mean that model-based proposals focus on coupled RC processes without any data simulation or observing system simulation experiment are not encouraged at all?
I think that one's for me. I cannot think of all of the possibilities in which a modeling proposal would or would not be relevant. However, we have funded, I think, 12 to 14 modeling projects. And the focus is the field campaign. And so I don't see a modeling project that doesn't have any field campaign component being considered relevant. If there's a modeling component that's working with those that are taking measurements that don't include the 2 aspects that you mentioned, perhaps it would be relevant. I'd encourage you to submit an LOI. And if you have a modeling only proposal that you think is critical to the field campaigns and the campaign just can't go forward without it, again, I would encourage you to submit an LOI. And I've discouraged LOIs before, and I've had PIs email me and say, I think you're really wrong on this. And I invite those emails too. But we have invested a substantial amount of funds on pre-field modeling projects, and now we need to move into the field campaign phase.
All right, next question is, while you say that the data analysis proposal call will come later, should some analysis be included here? This is good practice for developing high quality data.
Yeah, so I think that gets back to my earlier, to kind of what I said before. We do want to continue to have this dialogue between observationalists and modelers, and I know many of you are observationalists and modelers, and I know there are many different types of modelers out there. So we want to have those continued conversations. And proposals should definitely include a data analysis. Some proposals will include data analysis, some won't. So I'm not trying to rule out data analysis, but those pieces, again, should be strongly motivated and tied to the field campaign, to the data coming out of the field campaign, to informing the field campaign. to rapidly getting the data into a format or test case or use case that modelers can use.
All right, next question is for Eugene. How immediate is immediately available data? Assume this will be raw data sets. What is the expectation for when QC data to be submitted available? Will data collectors be responsible for data and metadata on how that was carried out? And let me unmute you. Are you okay? There you go.
Okay, thank you, Jose. Yes, so what I meant with timely data in the context of dissemination on the global telecommunication system, that is data delivered within hours to a day after measurement. As for the data for scientific research and not data that are not, that is not the expectation for all the data. Let me just make that clear. Data delivered within that 24-hour time frame is typically data that flow through automated data workflows from the platform to a data accepting location, and most likely are existing workflows or workflows that exist already. So as far as data expectations to be delivered, you know, I think the TEPEX science team will certainly set some guidelines there, and we will follow. The data management team will follow those guidelines or support those guidelines. I can say that within this TEPEX experiment, the data delivery obviously should be within months or weeks after measurement. But I know there's some QC that happens by the PIs. So there's not a blanket statement here, except to say that within the year of a field campaign, data should be delivered to a central repository where it's available to all participants in TEPEX. So those are very coarse guidelines, but it will depend on the observing platform and the type of data that are measured and the amount of QC. So.
All right, next one is for Ginny. Related to this question, may an PI participate in more than one proposal so long as they are not lead PI on more than one? We can't hear you.
Yep, I was trying to minimize background noise. Yes, you can be a PI on more than one proposal. You can receive funding on more than one proposal, but we are, again, limiting the number of proposals where you can serve as the lead PI. I would also caution you on spreading yourself across too many proposals, and to be really thoughtful about how many proposals you add yourself to. Some panels can get pretty grumpy when they see someone on many proposals.
All right, I can take this one. Will the recording of this webinar be shared? Yes, it will be shared. It'll probably be uploaded to our website sometime next week. The next one is, it is great to have Eugene's group to help the data management. Does this mean that the individual proposals do not need to include data management costs and data management plan?
Yeah, Jose, I'm unmuted. I want Jenny, if she can support me here. We did consider this. The thought is that please include these costs in your proposal as a separate line item specific to that, and that will be considered because CPO will support foundational data management workflows, as I just explained. So there's some element that CPO will cover. And Jenny, is that correct? And just one note, the data management does not include quality control of the data. That resides within the science groups because that's science specific.
Yeah, I guess just in kind of talking, you definitely need to have a data management plan. And there will, I think in listening to this, there will be costs that you, the project PI, will still need to cover in data management, like quality control and other aspects. Some of those will be taken care of by Eugene's group. And we're saying specifically for archiving at NCEI, that would be covered by CBP through these core services. However, if you're unsure what would be covered or what wouldn't be covered, go ahead and include it in your budget and your data management plan, and we can work that out later in terms of what's going to be covered where. But again, your proposals still need to have a data management plan, so we can work with you on those after the project is awarded.
Yeah, and just to add to Jenny there, so we can also help with in your proposal, you need a data management plan, and then for the actual process, well, we'll develop a data management plan to document the workflows. That is, and we will help you with that. That's a couple of hours of work. Another component you should not have to propose or ask funding for is standing up a capability to make your data publicly available. We will have that, and you know, again, CPO will support this effort, will support that core functionality here at PML and elsewhere.
And I would add, based on the Atomic Field campaign, we expect PIs to have the capability to meet the community standard, which is to share their data in a NetCDF file, which is usable by all computing languages, and it's open source, open format, it's not proprietary. And so I'd say that PI needs to be prepared to work into a NetCDF file, and we can always help a little bit, but it is there. We can provide examples of that, but that's the capability we hope PIs can do. And the NetCDF file should have all the required metadata for the final file, because that's needed by Eugene's team to archive it. And so, although there are some things we can move along, we would like PIs to be ready to meet the community standard of NetCDF for the final data set. In Atomic, we did not archive people's raw data.
So may I add that in individual proposals, with the expectation that Eugene will make his data policy available before the due day of the proposals, and individual PI's data management plan would include how they would work with Eugene under under his data management plan and comply with the data policy in the science plan. So there's two parts of it, and I think maybe
No. Chidong, no. So PIs need to submit their proposals based on what information is in the competition information sheet. So we can't add additional requirements at this stage. They do need to comply with what is written in the TEPEX science plan. So if you look at the competition information sheet, it encourages you to read the TEPEX science plan data management language and communicate how you will abide by that language. And it reflects what Eugene and Elizabeth have said, but we cannot require PIs. PIs are not required to contact Eugene or work with Eugene or discuss how they will work with Eugene. Once PIs are awarded, I think we can work all of that out. Okay. You are welcome to, Eugene can welcome them to contact him and talk through all of these things. However, it is not a requirement that they do that in the submission process.
Thank you for that clarification. And with that note, I think probably Eugene's data policy will be finalized after the funding decision is made and in consultation with all the funded PIs. Okay, that's a good procedure.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. And as you know, attendees can see, we hope that you're amenable to working with us as things change, because a lot of things are going to change throughout the field campaign.
All right, next is would a proposal on the climatology of geophysical variables, for example, wind and sea surface temperature and turbulent heat fluxes in the TEPEX regions from remote sensing data be useful as a context for the field data?
I'm sorry, Jose, can you repeat that question?
Would a proposal on the climatology and geophysical variables, for example, wind and sea surface temperature, in the TEPEX regions from remote sensing data be useful as a context for the field data?
So I would encourage kind of everyone, if they have specific topical questions like that, to submit an LOI. If Chidong or Elizabeth want to comment right now, they can. We don't typically comment on kind of topic related questions because that's what the LOI kind of process is for.
My only feedback is it was really helpful for me to learn about the projects that CPO has already funded in the last 2 calls, which were meant to provide any guidance that prior data and models could have already provided prior to the field campaign. And so to some extent, I would encourage everyone to look at what has already been done and reach out to those people about what they have found. Some of the projects are still being completed, but there has already been some work to some extent for CPO to support that. And I think we should be trying to leverage those prior efforts, and the current NOFO prioritizes new data and field efforts, but it doesn't mean that, yeah, people will need to take all of that into account. And Ginny, the prior projects are listed online on the CPO's website.
They're also, they should be in the information, the competition information sheet background information. And so you should be able to follow either footnote links or direct links to those 2 funding opportunities and the projects that were funded under those funding opportunities for the pre-field campaign modeling experiments.
All right, next question is, does the budget for this include funds that will support NOAA participants? The CPO FAQs says that NOAA emails proposals to the program managers. I think NOAA staff emails proposals to the program managers. Are there additional funds for NOAA, or are non-federal participants indirectly competing with NOAA?
So our notice of funding opportunity is open to both federal and non-federal PIs. It's also open to PIs of non-US institutions. So your international collaborators could submit a proposal or be on a proposal with you. We can fund international collaborators. Federal participants submit the same proposal and proposal format that everybody else submits, and they go through the same review process that non-federal PIs go through. The only kind of difference is that we don't fund NOAA or other federal entities through grants.gov or ERA, or through the system in which we fund external organizations. That is why they can email a proposal to us. Federal employees' salaries are, NOAA federal employee salaries are covered. So NOAA federal employees bring in kind funding. So in that respect, that is additional funding that's available to the field campaign. There are other pots of funds for facility requests, but in terms of getting postdocs to come work with federal employees, that's all coming out of the same pot of funds.
Next up is, are cross-lab proposals encouraged?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't be. Of course. Yes, we encourage collaboration of all kinds, including those across multiple NOAA laboratories or NOAA laboratories and other agencies. I will say we have had a very difficult time with interagency transfers. And so if you need your funds in a timely manner for interagency transfers, we're going to have to talk about how we can creatively figure that out. So I would say email me if you're from another federal agency and want to participate in this and are requesting funds from NOAA.
Are there mechanisms for funding international collaborations for supporting student participation in the field?
So for international collaborations, your international partner can register to be an organization under, I believe it's grants.gov. I would encourage you to come to the September 6th webinar because that's when our grant specialists will be attending. They can connect you with the right person for this information. But an international partner can register just like any other institution in the US and submit a proposal through their international institution to the Notice of Funding Opportunity. So if you're collaborating as a multi-institution, much of the time we encourage you to consider submitting separate but identical proposals as a multi-institutional award, so that there are two awards kind of under one project. That is a path you can take with an international collaborator. They can apply directly with a separate but identical proposal through their own institution.
Should the same mechanism for identical joint proposals be used for like joint US-based proposals?
Yes, usually if we have a collaborative proposal from multiple institutions, each institution will submit a separate but identical proposal. And there's specific language in this for the NOFO, or in the NOFO. It should be identical except for the budget section, and then the budget section really, I think, just includes your institution unless you're the lead PI, and then there are more kind of technical things you should include if you're the lead PI.
All right, I have two more, three. So the first one is, would you respond to LOIs with encouragement? Oh, yeah.
One more thing I do want to say, awards will likely be made by September 1st of 2025, and the field campaign is scheduled for spring of 2026. And I know that in some cases, if you're interested in a sub-award or a subcontract, the time between one institution getting its money and then being able to process that money for the second institution, there's a lag. And so I would consider kind of the timing and the way that you're requesting. I would consider the way you're requesting funds and the timing of which you receive those funds in your proposal requests when you're trying to decide whether to do separate proposals for each institution or a subaward, if that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't just confuse everybody. Okay, Jose.
All right. Would you respond to LOIs with encouragement or disencouragement for a full proposal?
Can you repeat the question?
Would you, wait, basically if you're gonna respond to LOIs, encouraging or discouraging?
So we, our response to LOIs, we respond to LOIs within 4 weeks of the LOI deadline. We try to minimize that to 2 weeks so you have more time for your proposals. everybody gets their response at the same time. You can submit your LOI past the deadline, but you might get your response later than everybody else. We respond with we encourage, we discourage, or we think this is partially relevant, and here are some things that would bump it up into the encourage category.
And I will add that the form will close October 1st at 11:59 Eastern. So if you miss that deadline and you still want to submit something, you will need to email us, both Jeannie and I, because the form will automatically close at 11:59 on October 1st. So the next question is, hold on, does a PI who acquires the data has the higher priority for analyzing the data in the future proposal call for analysis?
Can you repeat the question?
Does the PI who acquires the data has the higher priority for analyzing the data in the future proposal call for analysis?
So all data should be publicly available by the time that we have a future call for proposals.
Will FY25 funds come to NOAA labs in time for them to use the funds? This is generally during the month of May.
So our deadlines to make awards are June 30th, and we have been able to meet that deadline even when getting funds quite late in June. And so I do have confidence that we'll be able to, if next year is similar to the last, let's say 4 or 5 prior years, I do have confidence that we'll be able to recommend awards with a budget before and get those recommendations to our grants management division before June 30th.
But you said the funds won't arrive at a lab or an external institution until September 2025?
So the funds can arrive at a lab earlier than that because it's just a question of a transfer to internal NOAA organization. So as soon as we have funds, I think it's like a week. It takes a week to transfer them to a laboratory. To transfer funds to a institution outside of NOAA, that is a 3 or 4 month process. And we don't have control over where our grants will kind of be timed in that process. So September 1st is typically the start date for awards and when NOAA can really review those, approve those, and get them to the institution, and the institution accept them. So September 1st would be for external academic institutions.
And the last question here is, are process studies that touch on different aspects of the TEPEX plan, for example, physical processes, ocean and atmosphere, more relevant than ones that address only one specific question, for example, mixing from the TEPEX plan?
I would say submit an LOI. I think they're both relevant. I wouldn't say one is more or less relevant than the other based on that information. I would also say that they're going to be reviewed for scientific and technical merit. And so while one might be more relevant than the other, it might be easier or more technically feasible and may score higher if the focus is narrow. Again, I don't want to give you the idea that that actually would be reviewed that way. Just consider that relevance is a piece, but it's not the entire part of the review.
And I would add that, again, both competitions will have different panels. So whoever reviews TPEX East is not reviewing TPEX Central and vice versa. So they will have different people that review the proposals. That's the end of the questions on my side. We still have 4 minutes for discussion.
No questions about facility requests?
I would just say to that matter, once the LOIs are submitted, PSL would like to host a workshop for people interested in submitting LOIs. Let's say, like, once the LOIs have been submitted, you would be a known character to Ginny, and she could help forward us our information. We will be trying to convene a workshop sometime shortly after the LOI submission date to get people on the same page and do more cohesive, like, planning for a complete experiment, and to help people understand the full arena of people planning to submit.
So
and to reframe that a bit, I will send everyone who submits an LOI Elizabeth's contact info and her goal to have this kind of gathering. I will not be forwarding your LOI information or your names to Elizabeth. So it will be more like, if you'd like to connect with Elizabeth, you reach out to her about this effort.
Yeah, we did it for the atomic field campaign, and it seemed to help everyone. And so you're invited, but you're not required to attend.
So I would like to add that the group people who plan to bring sensors and instruments on the NOAA ship will meet in the next 2 weeks. We have not decided exactly date, and just to get each other to know each other's intent and the objective. So if you don't know about this, email to me, I can add you to the list. And in the future, it is possible we have another meeting between the ship PIs, potential PIs, and aircraft potential PIs for NOAA. And we're still debating whether we should have a larger group meeting between NOAA potential PIs and ANSF potential PIs, but that has to be decided later. Cannot hear you, Jenny.
If you're watching this webinar and it's recorded and you're not sure who to email, email me, virginia.sells@noaa.gov, and I will connect you with the right person. If you have follow-up questions about this webinar, please reach out to us. We're here to try to make this easier for you. So again, please email me, virginia.sells@noaa.gov. All right, Jose, I think if we don't have any other questions and there are no other comments, I think we can wrap up.
I was muted. I was saying that I'll send an email next week to all registrants whenever we have this uploaded, so they can rewatch it or share it with others that may be interested in this effort. All right, I don't see any more questions. So, and then, oh, I'll have to excuse Eugene. There was a fire alarm at PMEL, so he had to leave the building. I just received that, but he didn't leave because he wanted to leave. He had to leave, all right? So again, thank you so much for joining us. This will be shared in the website in the next week or so. And again, as Jeannie said, just email us if you have any questions regarding TPEX. Have a nice afternoon, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.